What if networking wasn't just about collecting contacts, but about connecting with purpose? Welcome back to the TrailBLAZER Pod. I'm your host, Faye, and each week I bring you stories of Jewish women paving bold paths. In this episode, Lirone Glikman, author, speaker, and global networking expert, shares how authenticity, energy, and even rejection can become your greatest assets. From the power of asking for advice to building real community, Lirone reveals how true success starts with genuine human connection. Let's dive in. Lirone, welcome to the TrailBLAZER Pod. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to finally meet you.
Hi, Faye. It's wonderful meeting you, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, we're going to be talking about your book today, which is the Super Connectors Playbook, and we're basically going to go through everything you teach us in the book. But the way you start the book is explaining a little bit more about who Lirone is, your childhood, the way you were raised, and how it kind of led you to where you are today. And I love that because that's how I start every episode. I ask my guests, what was Lirone like as a little, just so we can understand, how that little girl became the woman you are today. And so I think it's really fitting to start that way with you
hmm
today. So can you share a little bit about that?
Thank you. So I'm happy my book actually
Yes.
tapped into the way that you like to meet new
Yes.
people. So essentially, I was always a dreamer, and I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted, to achieve things, to be meaningful. Maybe, I can use all kind of, words or dreams, but
Yeah.
but I always wanted to do something which is, it's on my terms that it means that I'm achieving myself and I'm fulfilling myself. I mean, and I had a lot of dreams. Like I wanted to work in NASA, but I didn't know
Yeah.
anyone at NASA. And there was a time that when I was 5, I saw all this circus and I wanted to be in the circus. But I'm like,
Aw.
how can I ever get to work in the circus when I don't know anyone there? And I wanted to work on cruise ships and I didn't know anyone. Later on today, I know all the top people in the cruise ships in the world, but it's not my
Mm.
dream anymore.
Full circle.
Yeah, and my father is a retired airline pilot, so I really had the opportunity to travel the world and see its wonders. And I always wanted more, but I felt there was like a blockage between what I want to, how can I achieve
Mm.
it? Because people is kind of the linking
Yeah.
parts to it. And with that in mind, I started to observe and research why some people have more friends than others, why some people are, getting all the information about all the cool parties or getting the cool jobs. And I was always a very communicative person. I was
Mm-hmm.
always friendly, but I think I had this kind of a social awkwardness because I was too people pleasing and
Mm.
I'm a smiley person. I'm like, I guess more than the average person. I know that I smile a bit more than others, and it took me some time to understand how to fit myself to the social
Mm-hmm.
norms, but then again, how to own myself and understand, okay, this is me, but here are the boundaries for social
Mm.
interactions. And with that in mind, at the age of 16, I discovered the radio, and I went to on a course with a local radio station in Israel, where I grew up, and I understood, hey, this is a place where I can share my energy, my perspective on the world. I can really make people happy. I wanted to make people happy because this country, unfortunately, has a lot of hardships, and I realized that hey, radio can help me, you know,
Wow.
put some good songs on and share my agenda and so on. So I knocked on the CEO's door and he saw this 16-year-old girl and I told him, I want to work for you. And he said, okay, I'm going to give you $20 per month for commute and you're going to produce the top show in the radio. I'm like, yes, my life bargain. And after a few months, I knocked again and I said, you know what? I want to be a presenter and I want to, host a show. And he gave me the
Mm.
chance. So I became one of Israel's youngest radio presenters. And at the age of 16, going, in high school and people say, hey, I just heard you on the radio last night and all that. I mean, apart from that, these, kind of nice comments, I really felt like, hey, I understand how, if I'll be in the media, in the marketing, in the
Mm.
branding world, I could really impact on people's lives and
Wow.
I wanted to help them. So maybe that was kind of my early days and I
Yeah.
realized that I have the power of knocking on people's door whether it's online or offline and I have the courage to do it.
So you're saying that very casually, but it takes like a lot of guts to walk up to somebody's door and be like, "Hey, I
hmm
think I'm good for this. Take me." So for people who are
Yeah.
like not naturally like that, can you share what did give you that push or that courage to do that at such a young age, especially?
That's a beautiful question. So I always say that it's really about what do you want to achieve? I mean, I see communication or relationship building apart from it being, one of the most natural and humanly thing that we can do, because
Yeah.
we're social creatures. But it was also about, like, I wanted to be on the radio. I wanted to have this role where I can feel that I can really put into practice my knowledge of what I knew I can do. Like, I knew I could be a really good radio presenter, but I never had the chance to do it. So if your goal is strong enough, then you will overcome any fear or any, setbacks or any, like, limiting beliefs, because you want to achieve it. So for
Wow.
me, it was the strength of the goal, or how much I had to do it. I had to get there.
So I'm going to ask you follow up later about the goal and
Hmm.
for people who are not sure what
Yeah.
their goal is. But I'm just curious, growing up, did your parents, well, how many siblings do you have, if any?
So I'm the oldest, and I have
Okay.
a brother and sister. My brother is like almost like 2 years younger than me, and the
Mm.
sister is 7 years. So
Okay, wow.
yeah.
So did your parents and family kind of support and nurture this part of you where you're like, I want to explore, I want to understand, I want to go meet people, or was it something
Mhm.
that you felt you kind of had to figure out on your own? Because every family is different dynamic, you know?
Yeah. So it's interesting because my mom was always more, she was very, she unfortunately she passed away, but
Oh,
she's like the heart, she was very connecting with people through
mm.
emotion, through really caring, through really listening. And my father is this extroverted person, he's always going to be the heart of the event, and he has a lot of friends. And looking back, I got from both of them, from my mom, I got the ability to connect heart to heart with
Hmm.
people. But from my dad, I got the ability, to be the,
Wow.
like, the spirit of the
Yeah.
party. And so they did, I think, in their behavior, kind of encourage me to do
Yeah.
it. And if I asked for help, they always helped me. But I think it's also what I saw at home. Like, I
Mm.
saw my father that has so many friends in, like, any occupation. Like, he has three types of doctors who are his best friends, three types of lawyers who are his best friends. Like, everyone around him happened to be also people who
Yeah.
can help them in life. So
Yeah. It's really
yeah,
interesting. You kind of got the best of both worlds to make,
yeah.
the kind of career and impact that you wanted to. And I think that's very clear now that I'm learning that about your parents. Like the stuff that you say in the book and how you operate, it sounds like you really like, took from them as well. So I think it's very interesting the impact that family can have if they teach you things or if they're the opposite and that's why you create something for yourself.
True. I think it's either, right? It's the
Yeah.
opposite, and you want to be someone else, or you just took it from them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your book, The Super Connectors Playbook, you talk a lot about the human factor method and how to make authentic business relationships, how to network.
Hmm.
And, I love this topic because obviously, as a podcast host, I love connecting with people. I try to go back to when they were a little girl, as we discussed, but this is also relevant to my work,
Oh,
right? Yes. So,
exactly.
yeah. So I really found it very interesting, but I'm going to ask you a lot of questions that you kind of it's a nice amount of chapters but it's a very easy
Yeah.
read, I must say. Very talented, because some books you're just some business books and network books you're sitting there and you're like you have to read sentences like 4 times, and this one was
Oh,
very
good.
easy to yeah very easy to read and digest. But I'm gonna ask you a couple questions about the book, so for anyone that
Hmm.
hasn't read it, it's kind of like a synopsis. So you do say
So,
in your book, yeah, there it is, you talk a lot about networking and you say many times it's less about your skills and more about your vibes. So can you
oh.
expand what you mean by that? And I think like you kind of gave your dad as an example a little bit, like his personality.
Yeah, and I love that you quoted specifically this one, because I think everything, it's really about the vibe, the energy that we bring to the table. And there's a fine line between, I mean, should I fake my vibe? No, but
Mm-hmm.
we all have kind of a range of vibes, right? When we're happy, when we're excited, when we are determined to achieve something. And when I said it, I'll share a story, and that would be the best way to explain what I meant. So when I was about 21, I moved by myself to Sydney, Australia, and I wanted to make it in Australia. And I understand that, hey, I'll be fine. I knew that I'll be fine in some way, shape, or form. And after 2 weeks, I got a job at like this shopping center, a small jewelry shop. And then a guy came by and he's like, okay, what brought you to Australia? I told him, look, I already have an experience in radio and production, and I want to do something meaningful in Australia. And he said, would you like me to connect you to a local radio station, Bondi FM? And I'm like, yes, why not? So I met with this manager of the Bondi FM, and he interviewed me and he asked me a lot of things about what I did in the radio. And then he told me this sentence that really shaped so many things and I will never forget. He says, you know something? your English sucks, but I like your energy and I'm going to give you a show. Now, Faye, I
Wow.
had a show every Tuesday between 2 to 4 p.m. To be honest, my English was so bad. I was giving the show, and I understand that I'm saying so many things wrong, and I would not give myself a radio show back then. And it's about everywhere. Like if you're going into an interview, or you're pitching to an investor, or you're speaking on a podcast, it's always about how do we use our voice, or the energy in our voice, and obviously the way we look at people, or our body language. It's all the vibe, that
Yeah.
we bring. And if I encourage, the viewers and listeners to think how they bring themselves, and in their own scale of energy or vibe, how can you bring your best vibe into any important situation for you, as if interview or pitching or so on.
Yeah. You said he really believed in you, but from what it sounds like, first step is almost believing in yourself. I feel like if you don't believe in yourself, they can tell. They can kind of smell that like she
Yeah.
doesn't fully believe in her value. And obviously, you moving and knowing you're going to make it, it sounds like you have a very clear sense of worth even at
Yeah.
that young age. Is that correct?
Look, I came with, after 6 years of experience doing a lot of big things in Israel. For him, maybe the names I shared like didn't mean a thing for him, but maybe I knew and I conveyed that, I worked for
Yeah.
such big events and things. So maybe he didn't know what I mean by saying X, brand,
Right.
but I felt that I'm so proud of myself to be
Right.
so young, but already have such a good experience.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I like this topic a lot because I think sometimes as women, we don't want to come across as cocky and we don't. And
Yeah.
so instead of kind of doing what you did and be like, I have the experience, we sometimes like kind of like dim our light a little bit. And that
Mm-hmm.
actually backfires when you're trying to build relationships or, pitch something or make a big business connection.
Yeah.
And I think having interviews and discussions like this really shows young women, I think, that
Mm-hmm.
believing in yourself is not cockiness. It's two separate things.
And I'll also add, a difference between bragging and showing
Yeah.
off and saying this and that. And I always tell women and also men, if you want to share your work or share what you did and your value, the best way is to talk about facts,
Mm.
about data, about actions, and about emotions. Because, this is
Yeah.
definite. Like the actions, then I did work in this
Right.
body. Emotions, I did love I loved what I'm doing, and it was easy to convey. Data, I did X shows through the span of X years. Facts, so if you share
Right.
those things, facts, data, actions, and emotions, it really it has a solid foundation. It's not
Right.
like you're bragging.
Right. It
So
brings it down to
that'd be my
earth.
tips. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great actionable advice. So
Hmm.
you were talking about when you show up like that, you're building an
Yeah.
authentic relationship, right? And you talk about this in your book. So can you explain what an authentic relationship building looks like versus, I guess, what the opposite is inauthentic relationship building, right? And like what's the effects of this?
That's a great question. Well, on the one hand, I think authenticity is really this overused word that everyone
Mm.
say, yeah, I'm authentic, I'm authentic. I think, in reality, some mornings you wake up in your best shape and some days you're not. But when I refer to authenticity, I like to say that it's basically when I'm confirming and aligning my thoughts, my actions, and my words.
Mm.
So if, my thoughts and my words are kind of the same, then I probably come across as a centered person, as a congruent with who I am. And if I'm with you and I'm saying, oh my God, Faith, your podcast is so amazing and I really love your question and I really feel it and I really think it, then it comes across. If I
Okay.
would say it and my thought would be different, we might sense it. We understand, we
Mm.
sense when people are inauthentic with us,
Yeah.
or they're not, real. And I think it may work for us for sometimes, but for the long run, it only works when it's real.
Yeah.
So if you want to build relationship for the long run, then really try, as much as you can to, feel the same as you speak. Having said that, it's okay to be, I think, there is a good jealousy where I'm jealous of someone because I want to be them. And then it drives me to
Right.
do something. It doesn't
Yes.
drive me to be mean to them, for
Mm-hmm.
example. So, we are human and we do have this range of feelings, but for the long run, I would prefer to be among people who I
Yeah.
feel that are, doing the same with me. And if not, I just try not to be in this environment with
Mm.
people that I think that are not,
Yeah. This makes me think of another question
hmm
that I did not have in mind to ask, but now I'm
yeah.
thinking about it. What do you feel or think about the phrase like fake it till you make it?
So yesterday, 2 days ago, I ran an event about founder-led branding, how to build a brand of founders at Google Campus. And I shared this sentence and everyone was quoting it like after that on post on LinkedIn. And the quote is, modesty is not a practical trait. And I
Mm,
think it's annoyed some people because on the one hand, I mean, modesty is such a beautiful trait, but if I'm in business, I really have to fake it, or I really have to show more than what I prefer because I want my company to
right.
talk for me or my product to talk for me. So when I think fake it till you make it, I think it's good as long as, it's just in order to maybe compensate on not on the not knowing that I can do it. I mean, it's here to compensate on the fact that I know there is still a gap between
Right,
how I
right.
want to feel and how I currently feel. So I will do it. And meanwhile, try to work on myself to know that I am worth it. And I think, everyone has the imposter syndrome. I mean, I
Yeah.
really like to normalize that. Like we all feel this way. 90% of people have different types of social anxiety if they're talking to an authority or to a group of people or, in a big hall and so on. So let's
Yeah.
normalize it. And if
Yeah.
I'm faking it, it's just because I really want it. And I really, and I'm also owning it. And I know that I fake it because I want to get there. And as long as it's not, lying or deceiving people, I think it's okay. It's a supportive mechanism.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked you that. Thank you. I agree with you a lot. I think faking it
Yeah.
is just you putting yourself in a place that you hope to be and feel
Yeah.
one day, right? It's you. It's just maybe not you today. So I agree with you. So you talk a lot about when you're building relationships, about the power of giving. Can
Yeah.
you share why that is so important when you're building a network or a relationship with somebody?
I love your questions, Faye.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think we are here as human beings. We are social creatures, right? And
Yes.
one of the best ways for us to communicate with other people is to give them. And we can give a smile to someone. We can, give them a good time with us, like being very like friendly or listening to them. We can give them respect. We can give them objects. We can give them our time. There are so many things. And I think that's kind of our inherent mechanism as human beings. And when I give someone something, usually the law of reciprocity come into
Yeah.
play, which essentially we have this feeling that, hey, I have to pay them back, either saying thank you or owing them something, or, I will always be here for them. The other day, again, at this conference, this guy came to me, Jordan, and he told me, do you remember me? I'm like, no. He said, 6 years ago, you helped me find a job. And
Wow.
I will never forget this. And I'm like, oh my God, Jordan, you just made my day because
Wow.
I didn't remember that, but I'm so happy that I was able to help you.
That's
And
so
you
cool.
6 years later, how amazing do you feel when you know that you could help someone, even a
Yeah.
small help? So it's both ways, right? I feel amazing. The other person feels amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation of friendship, right? I mean, networking is it's like a really deceiving word because people can think it's fake or manipulative.
Mhm.
But the whole idea is just to make friends, knowing that they might not be your best friends, but how do you treat your friends?
Right.
Like
Right.
you try to help them, you try to be there for them. You can't do it with everyone you meet, but you can at least give them the feeling that you're there for them.
Yeah. And that's why I love this book because a lot of networking books, it's very like,
Yeah.
black, white, this is how you meet somebody and you use them for a potential, future partnership or whatever. Your book really takes it down to almost like the obvious human
Yeah.
behaviors of giving. So simple. Like, I think a lot
Yeah.
of us, we feel almost selfishly feel good when we give, right? And it's not necessarily a hard thing. I mean, as a Jewish woman, this is a lot of values that I was taught as a Jewish
Yeah.
woman or in school, right? So it's almost like natural that you want to do this and you're basically building that up and saying, "Hey, all the stuff that you already have
Hmm.
in your value foundation can be used to create this
Yeah.
wonderful business network," right? So you make it very human, which is the human factor, right? That you talk about. So I guess it
Exactly.
makes sense, yeah.
I love that you say because yeah, I guess a lot of it comes from the values of family, of the environment, and I had the privilege of working with the German government last year, and we had a big event with the Rabbi of Berlin. Now I
Mm,
am Jewish, I'm not religious, but I
yeah.
do what I do. And the rabbi, I told him what I'm doing and about my book. And he said, what you're actually sharing with the world is how to connect hearts together.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it because this book, it's really about to connect hearts. And
Yes.
when people are connected with their hearts, they want to help one another, right? They want to make sure the other person is happy. And then they want to help them fulfill themselves. And then the other
Yeah,
person, when he's happy, want to help other people fulfill
exactly.
themselves. It's like the opposite of this saying, hurt people hurt people. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, happy people make other people
Happy people.
happy,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved people, love people. Something like
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
don't know how to say the
I
opposite,
know.
but I'm sure it's better.
But
Yeah.
that tells you a lot because if there's no way to say it, that means we don't talk about that part enough, right? Like
You
it's
are
just,
so right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting thing that you bring up, I think it's towards the end of the book, you talk about gender differences in how
Hmm.
men and women network. And I love the topic of like because I think it's
Yeah.
important to understand ourselves, not because I'm always trying to be like
Hmm.
women have less opportunities. I just want to know where we stand and so that we can figure
Hmm.
out how do we put ourselves in a room and a seat at the table and kind of use it to our advantage, right? Like if we are different, what will
Yeah.
make me be able to connect with somebody? So I think it's important constructively to understand this topic. So what are the differences between men and women?
So I have to say that I was debating if I should write a lot about this topic
Mm,
or just give it, a highlight. And eventually what I did was giving it a highlight, but there was also an exercise. The book has a lot of
yes.
exercises, so people will implement it and some AI tips as well. And I decided to share what I'm going to share with you now and then give it as an exercise because each person who reads the book, they're in their own world and they are the best people to know
Right.
where they can put themselves on this kind of scale. So the idea and based on life and research, essentially, I will take this example of there is a model by Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, and the name is the VCP model, the visibility, connectivity, and profitability. So if you look at networking as like those three parts of, first of all, know who I am, see me, then I'm connecting with you and I'm nourishing the relationship, then you probably want to help me because you already know me.
Right.
Men usually they're starting with the visibility. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm George, Roger, whatever. And then they jump straight into the profitability for the most part. They're very
Mm,
transactional. They feel very comfortable to say, hey, brother, even though we met just 2 minutes ago, can you please connect me to this and that?
right.
And based on the research, women will do the visibility very well. Hi, I'm Lirone. Very nice to meet you. Who are you? Where are you from? Then we'll do the connectivity, the connection very well. And we'll nourish the relationship and we hug the relationship and we'll just embrace the
Yeah.
relationship, but we will feel uncomfortable asking. So that's usually one of the main differences. And how can you overcome it? First of all, understand, do you feel uncomfortable asking people for things? Or do you feel uncomfortable showing up or even introduce yourself? Like where in this like three
Right.
part are you uncomfortable? And then what can you do to make it better? And one of the biggest concepts that are going all along, like I'm mentioning all along the book, is to be proactive and just to make the ask. Now, there are different ways of making an ask.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, Faye, just give it to me. Or usually the way I like to ask is also once is sometimes like I will like to make an ask from people I don't know. You tell them, hey, I have a request. You can say yes, you can say no. I'll respect any kind of answer, but my request is, or when you feel very comfortable with people, they might also already ask you, is there any way I can help you with? Another way to make an ask is actually to ask for advice. There is a great
Mm-hmm.
sentence, by the way, from the startup world that says, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice,
Mm-hmm.
ask for money.
Money.
Most people would be
So good.
happy to help you and
Yeah.
usually will give you even more than you asked for if you just ask them for advice because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel useful that they can share their 2 cents and maybe impact on someone's life. So asking for advice is a
Yeah.
great way to do this profitability part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I read your book and two things came up in my head. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
two people that I'd love to have on my podcast that are not accepting my request on LinkedIn. They're not accepting my message on Instagram. How do I get them on the podcast? And I usually, most women are very, open and they accept my
Mm-hmm.
request and then but these two I couldn't and I really wanted them on. And your book actually gave me the courage to go back to my network and see who's connected to them,
Mm-hmm.
people that I had on the podcast previously, and I actually emailed them and I asked them, first I said I loved having you on the podcast. I see you're connected with this person. I'd love to have them on. I think it aligns. And both got back to me, and I'm gonna have both of these women on the podcast. So your book actually gave me the courage to do two things that I wanted to do. So I have to say to anyone listening, this works.
It
Even if
works.
it's just as an inspiration. So thank you personally.
Wow, I
Yeah.
love hearing this.
You also talk about the Ben Franklin effect, and then you
Yeah,
talk about, what you call the oldest, and you put it in quote, the oldest trick in the book to get others
yeah.
to help us.
So the oldest trick in the book to get others to help us is actually what I just said. Most people think other people would not want to help them. And I always challenge this thought because why, if someone approached you, you most probably would want to help them. Any person, even a stranger, might want to help you more than you think. So all the book is really about having what I like to call the world is your oyster mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Just go out there, just ask people. Most likely that they would want to help you or they would want to give you an advice. And an advice is like this very like light question or like request that people can say no or yes, and it's totally fine. And if they say yes, again, they usually convince themselves that they already gave you something that maybe they want to
Mm-hmm.
give you so much.
Mm.
And it's funny enough, like I really found an apartment. I find job opportunities, clients, just through asking people, can I ask for your advice?
Yeah.
So the reason I call it the oldest trick in the book, because it's so human and it's really gets people to kind of engages them more than you would even imagine.
Mm-hmm. I think something that people are afraid of is the
Mm-hmm.
no part, right?
Oh,
Even if it's very unlikely to happen because people, like you're saying, naturally want to give, it's a very scary thought of like being rejected or being told flat out no.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so do you have advice to kind of get over that fear of the rejection part? Like in case this doesn't go as I want, how do I?
yeah. First of all, it's okay to get a no. I think we grow better,
Mm-hmm.
from unfortunately from the hardships in
Yeah.
life than, when everything is like cruising and fun.
Yeah.
But we need to know, we need to acknowledge that no is a part of the journey. And no is not necessarily no personally to you. Many times
Right.
people say no because they're just busy. So you can either say, oh my God, they hate me, they don't like me, maybe I just said something wrong and how horrible I am, or just snap out of it because it comes
Right.
to almost everyone and say,
Yeah.
hey, this person, I don't know what is he's going through, and maybe it's okay. Whenever I hear no, I say thank you, I really appreciate your time, and move on. I really try to sincerely
Mm-hmm.
say thank you to any person who gives me a no. For example, I have been trying to get into TEDx. Maybe your friends could or listeners could help. I've been trying to get into Texas for years
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't able to do it yet. But every time, like we were, applying for so many TEDx, and every time I got a no, I took the time, not my assistant, myself, to send them, hey, thank you so much for
Wow.
considering me. Because I think it's also energetically wise is how do you get a no? Do you get it as like, oh my God, the
Right.
world is over, or thank you. You're just another no towards the yes.
Right.
So it's also, again, it's about the mindset. And a lot of things about relationship building is the mindset. Because if I'll go and tell you, Faye, you see the three people out over there, just go and shake your hand with everyone. Like, technically, you can do it. Usually, what the reason people are not doing it is because of their mindset. Like, oh my God, maybe they will think I'm crazy or I'm
Yeah.
cringe or what am I doing? And that's actually what holding us
Yeah.
back.
I
Yeah.
I like the part where you said you got to figure out where you stand in that process. Are you scared to go up to people? Are you scared of
Yeah.
connecting with people? Are you scared of the asking? Personally, I have no problem going up to a stranger and being like, "Hi, I'm Faye." It's the asking part that's a little bit harder for me. But the more you push it off, the harder it gets.
What's your
Yeah.
way of asking people when you feel uncomfortable?
I actually like feeling uncomfortable. Like I
Yeah.
like it's a weird thing, but I like that the friction. I like the when my body kind of goes like, oh, because
Yeah.
I'm just not somebody that likes the cruising. And I
Yeah.
try, I don't know if you're like this, but I actually have a hard time when things are cruising to sit and be like grateful that
Mhm.
it's going well because I like the other part of things, which is maybe a little
Yeah.
bit messed up, but that's just me personally. So I am, especially now with the podcast, I got a lot more comfortable, but I just have the
Mm.
mindset of this is terrifying, let me do it anyway. At this
Yeah.
point. But back in the day, I would sometimes not do it. I would build the connection and that's where I'd leave it at. Like, that's just the truth. I'd be too scared.
And it goes back to your first question about what
Yeah.
motivated me at 16 and even today to knock on doors, because I could definitely get a no, but it's the goal. So is the goal important for you? It's important
Mm-hmm.
for you to get the two women or two speakers on your show. And it was that important for you that you were motivated enough to send
Yeah.
those messages and ask those questions. So, and I think it's also about what kind of life do you want to live? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we are unaware that these little steps can really dictate where we'll be in a few years. Recently, my mentor, he shared like this amazing class on trends. If every morning I will wake up and I will journal and I will do sport, then my trend would kind of course,
Mm.
going. So you can predict where you're going to be in a month or 2 months if
Right.
you're consistent. If you're sending three new people a message, like three new
Right.
people, like, messages for three new people a week or something. And I also want to share, you mentioned earlier, I'm really happy that the book got you working,
Yeah.
got you to actually
Yeah.
taking action, because one of the reasons or one of the main thing I know I usually do is really encourage people to do things, but also the way I wrote it is like, like I'm speaking to you, like I'm your friend, like
Yes. Yes.
at least how I tried to make this book, like, hey, I'm your friend and I'm really here to help you find this network here within you
Yes.
and make it work for you.
Yeah. And that's what I meant when I said it's a really easy read because it does
Yeah.
feel like you're sitting next to me and kind of, talking to me over coffee or something, right?
Yeah. So now
Uh,
we are.
Yes, exactly. But you did, and this
Yeah.
ties really well to my next question about why you chose to have the exercises in there. You kind of talked about it a few
Hmm.
minutes ago, but why is it so important to have actionable steps that somebody can take right after they hear the
Yeah.
information?
Okay, so essentially, I don't want it to be just a book that you read and put
Mm-hmm.
back in the drawer. I want it to be actionable, and maybe because I'm a speaker and I've been
Yeah.
giving workshops for most of my life, and I want it to be very practical. And I know also from my experience and also research show it. Even if you read the exercise and you don't actually do it at this very moment that you read it, the question still keeps in your living in your mind, and maybe your mind will answer it now or in your dream or 2 days later.
Right.
So even asking questions, making sure that our mind is working, in a way. So I think it's so important to ask, where are you at this, scale?
Yeah.
And because this is a framework, and if I want to make sure that so many people could, benefit from it, and you are looking, let's say for investors, someone else is looking for a client, another person is looking for a job, one looking to, climb the corporate ladder, they can all use my method. So the
Yeah.
exercise actually help it to personalize
Yeah.
the actions or the tools to each person's circumstances.
Yeah. And for me, I was reading the book pretty quickly because I was prepping for this interview.
Hmm.
And so I didn't
Oh,
necessarily write down the exercises, but when you read the questions, that's automatically sticking in your brain, right?
exactly.
And it stays
That's what
there.
I, yeah.
Yeah, it reframes it. So a lot of this that we're talking about, we keep going back to like, what's your goal? What's your why? What's your motivation, right?
Mhm.
And I want to ask your opinion on something. Like, there's a nice
Yeah.
amount of people that aren't sure what they want to do.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them? Because that's a really hard gray area to be in.
I love this question. So, the book starts with saying that networking for me is not necessarily going out there and achieving all we want, but it's also about knowing that I have the skill to be able to meet the right people
Right.
to achieve my goal. So, if you know that you have the ability to find the people that will help you get what you want when you know what you want, I think it's such a good feeling. It gives you so much confidence to know that you would get along anywhere. It's like me in Australia. I knew I was able
Yeah.
to do it. I didn't know that 3 months later I would work in the biggest corporate in Australia, in the marketing
Yeah.
division of Westfield Shopping Center. I had no
Yeah.
idea, but I knew I have the skill and ability to make those connections.
Right.
And with that in mind, so if you know how to network, you potentially would be able to achieve a goal when you know where you want to go. But I always kind of knew what I wanted. And as a young, girl or teenage, people told me, oh my God, you're so lucky because you know what you want to do. So
Hmm.
I experienced it from the other side. But what I do recommend those people who aren't sure what they're going to do, Start tapping into your network, start meeting with a lot of people and telling them, hey, what do you think I should do? Tell me more about your profession. What can I learn about you? And then start, understanding, okay, this is interesting, this is less interesting. So make a list of 10 people with different background and different professions and just ask to meet them to learn from them or to learn about their world. That might start a direction and understanding about what to do or what really makes your
Yeah.
heart sing. Another thing that I talk about in the book is the ikigai method, which is it kind of says that you should work in the sweet spot of what you love doing,
Hmm.
what you're good at, and what the world needs and happy to pay for. The journey, I mean, it's you don't have to know what you want to do, but you
Yeah.
do want to nurture a network, even if you're unsure.
I love this because it's kind of like the chicken or egg thing, right? Like people think they network when
Yeah,
they know what they want to network for, but if you're
yeah.
networking, you might find out what you want to do. Love that advice. Like just meet people, hear their stories. You never know what's going to come out from it. So,
And I have to share with you that this very high profile C-level manager, she's a friend of a friend. She worked in some of the biggest companies in the Israeli market. And now she's kind of in between. And she asked to
hmm,
meet with me. And we met. And she said, now I'm not sure what's my next step is. And
yeah,
I'm meeting with a lot of people I don't know. So we met and I gave her my advice or shared my world with her. And then she asked me to introduce her to another person that that she
yeah,
want to learn from, someone from my network. And I'm sharing this because even the most senior managers, they're all eventually want and need to meet new people. So it
right.
never ends, whether you're just starting or whether you just have a 25 years of amazing career, you still would want to meet new people. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
really good point. Because I think sometimes we see people in their success, like at their
yeah,
height of their career, and we're like, this never applies to them. This just applies to the people who don't really know what they want to
yeah,
do. So I like that you shed light on that. You talk about how you make people feel when you meet them, and so I'm
mhm,
curious. I'm gonna throw this back at you. How do you
yeah.
want people to feel when they speak to you?
Well, how do you feel when you speak to me?
I'm very inspired. But, it's interesting because I read the book, I
Uh-huh.
know the answers, kind of like the cut and dry answers because I'm basing it off the book. But when
Yeah.
you answered the questions, first of all, you said you're always smiling. It's so refreshing. Like it is an energy that you're creating. But I love how you bring everything back to the practicality of it. I don't understand how am I going to implement this, or it sparks that little thought in my head of how I can use this in my life. I have a hard time
Yeah.
appreciating it, and so I find it inspiring that you can do that because not a lot of people can bring it down to earth, like I like to say,
Yeah.
so that's how I feel.
Thanks for sharing this. And I think, we talked about authenticity or being yourself. And I mean, it's not about thinking hard, oh my God, I want her to feel good and I want her to feel amazing. And I mean, I also have my, down days
Yeah,
so whatever. But I mean, it's really about being conscious when we're communicating with other people. I mean, I think the basic is, do I respect them? Do I give them my full
right,
attention? We know that usually, in terms of rapport, we usually tend to mirror one another. So if I will smile at you, if you probably smile at me, if I will
right,
tell you a good word, you will feel good. If I will share a sad story, you will feel sad. I mean, so, and
yeah,
especially when we meet someone for the first time, usually I definitely say, hey, let's try to make sure that we talk about connecting topics
yeah,
or about, or giving a safe space for other people to feel nice next to me and not that I'm, like I'm very busy and I don't have time for them. And sometimes it does happen. Like this event the other day, I was so, flooded with so many
yeah,
things and so many people were, wanted to talk to me and I didn't have a lot of time. And I told them, guys, like at some point, like, I really want to talk to you. I'm just really sorry. I see that right now it's so I'm so busy. So let's set another call.
right.
Let's talk after that. I mean, I really try to respect the people around me. So I mean, I don't know if there's a specific, playbook for how to make people feel good because each of us is different. But I'm really encouraging everyone to think, how do they make people feel? Or
I like the mirror effect is a good way to kind of gauge where how you do make people feel because if
yeah,
they're presenting something to you, it's likely because you're presenting it to them. So it's a good way to like understand yourself, I guess. My last question is, what do you think 16, 17, 18-year-old Lirone would think of the work you're doing today? Because, you start the
wow.
book off with what your dreams as a little girl, and then
Mhm.
you knocked on the CEO's door, then you moved to Australia, And it's like a lot of bravery and courage, but you didn't necessarily know that it's going to bring you to this work that you're doing today. So, like, what do you
Yeah.
think you would think of yourself?
I love your questions. So at this stage, looking back at my,
Yeah.
16-year-old, I said, if she would have known, that I was, would do what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
she would be so proud and she might
Oh.
be, less anxious about so many things.
Yeah.
So I might just say this, I mean, right now I'm in this phase where I'm really happy about what I'm doing, and I'm just now kind of expanding it. I'm on the right road. I'm just, going
Right.
strong and expanding, and I'm doing a book tour in the US, and I'm, traveling the world every month. I'm in another country, and I'm
Amazing.
very blessed and working very hard to do it. So I think my 16, 60, 70 years old would be very proud that I was
Yeah.
able to impact other people. I think that's one of my values, is to make sure that I'll help people fulfill themselves. Even, what you just shared about, it gave you the courage to send this message, and eventually you were able to meet those people and invite them to your podcast. And
Mhm.
then when each of them will come to your podcast, they will all share such an amazing, information and inspiration that will touch other people, that will
Right.
take them into their life and exponentially. So I'm really honored to know, with a lot of hard work, that I'm able to make this ripple effect and move the needle around the world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you so much, Lirone. I'm so inspired, and I love that because I already read the book. So I can imagine people who didn't read the book how they're gonna feel about this conversation.
Yeah.
There it is.
There is
Yeah,
audiobook, ebook, soft cover,
all
everything.
the things.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on today, giving me your time, and for sharing, your career, the things you learned, the advice, the actionable advice that you have, which I think is really important. I really, really appreciate it. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much, Faye. It's my honor as well. I really appreciate it.